Ilia Topuria just knocked out Max Holloway in the third round and now has arguably beaten the top two best featherweights of all time. So let's get into this fight and see how the Matador has been finishing off his opponents. It starts off and Ilia Topuria points at the ground immediately, mimicking what Max Holloway did in his last fight against Justin Gaethje at the end. Max Holloway says, "No, you come here. I'm not going to play your game." And then they get off. So Max Holloway is doing Max Holloway things. He's throwing great jabs to Ilia's body. He's throwing great kicks to Ilia's body. He's throwing great jabs to Ilia's face. And he's landing some really good counter right hands around Ilia. You can see that Max Holloway is staying pretty mobile. He's not really letting Ilia Topuria press him up against the cage. And whenever Ilia does press forward, he is quick to move his feet to avoid that pressure that Ilia brings. Max has these great kicks, but unfortunately for Max, these kicks just aren't going to be enough. You need to do real damage on Topuria and have really stellar defense against someone with as much power as Topuria does. So as beautiful as these strikes are for Max Holloway, it's just not going to be enough at the end of the day. And we can see here, this is just 42 seconds into the first round, and Ilia is already hunting for this overhand right, which is the strike that he uses to land the finishing sequence on Holloway in round number 3. And what is drawing this attack out of Ilia? Well, it's Max Holloway throwing his jab, and Ilia throws that right hand to try to counter. You also see a beautiful double jab and then the same right hand that Ilia throws. And so Ilia was pretty early to find that that strike was going to be effective against Max. Beautiful jab from Ilia Topuria, and then beautiful entrance onto a double leg, scoops Max up, sucks his hips in towards his chest, lifts him up, and then slams him down. And even though he wasn't really able to do any damage, this is just the difference between a fighter like Ilia Topuria, who is so well-rounded in terms of his boxing and his jiu-jitsu, and someone like Max Holloway, who hasn't really achieved any offensive takedowns since his Yair Rodriguez fight. Ilia identifies the fact that Max is skating around the octagon, and he immediately starts working on deadening Max's legs, making sure that that footwork isn't going to be there for Max, and it's just going to be much harder for Max to avoid these strikes. And this does start working. Max Holloway has never had the best defense in the world, and you can see that Max was eating some really big shots that could have knocked out lesser opponents early in the fight. So this is 3 minutes left in round 1. Eats a huge counter right hand from Ilia. 15 seconds later, we have just a big overhand right from Ilia, and this is kind of the same strike that Ilia lands in round 3. Another just deadening leg kick on Max Holloway. Horrible reaction there. You can see that Max Holloway's footwork is already starting to leave him. And then just beautiful work from Ilia getting in on Max Holloway, ducking underneath his jabs, throwing these beautiful combinations that are just snaking in, and they're not doing that much damage, but they are getting through. That right hand grazes Max's chin. He steps in, and then you can see how Max relies on his footwork to avoid this, and he runs to the outside. We can see that when Ilia did that exact same combination against Alexander Volkanovski, Volkanovski made the mistake of trying to fight back, and that's what caused Volkanovski to get knocked out. Just another huge right hand from Ilia here, catching Max right on the chin. And then another one. So Ilia steps in really deep, grabs that left hand of Max Holloway, throws the right hand. Unfortunately, it doesn't connect clean because Max is avoiding it. But then the follow-up left hook, it's always these follow-up shots that Ilia Topuria throws. Most MMA fighters don't throw in combinations like this. Ilia has so much faith in his power and defensiveness inside this pocket that he allows himself to throw these long combinations. And because of that, it's the second, third, or even fourth strike that finds his opponents and rocks them. So 2 big shots at the beginning of round 2 here. And then in round 3, we just have the finishing sequence. So Ilia does this exact same thing where he pumps with his left hand, making Max think that he's going to throw a jab, steps in super deep with his left foot while grabbing Max's lead left hand with his hand. Slaps that down, lands that big right hand. That's a strike he's been looking for the entire fight, and you can see Max's mouth goes slack, his eyes are dazed, and he does not know what's gotten into him. He's running away from Ilia here, and he knows that he's got to get off of this fence, but he doesn't have his faculties about him. His leg is dead, and Ilia is just not going to let up. Body shot from Ilia. Max tries to throw back. We have a left hook that hits Max's shoulder. Another left hook that misses. Max actually lands a left hook of his own on Ilia here. Right on Ilia's face. And then what does Ilia do? He goes to the body. That doubles Max Holloway in half. You can see his body just get crumpled there from that super powerful left hook. Ilia keeps attacking. Max is dodging it, and he gets out of there. He does the correct thing. He defends and evades, unlike what Volkanovski did, where he tried to fight back and then get hit. Max Holloway is still dazed. You can see that he doesn't have all of his wits about him. And another big right hand from Ilia just tracks him down, and he continues to hunt for Max Holloway. Holloway is still just running on instinct, but he has enough skills to survive this. Ilia again attacks forward. He's missing all of these shots, but he does land a right hand. Every time Ilia is attacking, he's just avoiding everything that Holloway is throwing at him because Holloway is dazed, and he's landing shots of his own in this boxing pocket. And then here we have another big punch that Ilia lands, and this is the one that hits Holloway down. So let's just break into it. Ilia goes in. Instead, this time he leads with the left hook rather than that overhand right that he's been throwing. Left hook hits Holloway on the shoulder. Right hook hits Holloway on the other shoulder. And then this is really reminiscent of the Volkanovski fight because Ilia Topuria has drilled this phone booth boxing so well that he just has his distance perfect. And we can see that even in this position, he has this right hand posted on Holloway's arm and shoulder. He knows his range. And look at this brutal left hook that Ilia throws. Just putting everything into it. Look at the angle of his body. Just catching Holloway right on the chin. And he cracks literally the toughest chin in all of MMA. Max Holloway has played fast and loose with this damage. He's invited a lot of phone booth pocket brawls against Justin Gaethje, Ricardo Lamas, against the Korean Zombie. And eventually he just can't keep eating these shots on the chin. He's been hit with multiple big shots in this very fight. And Ilia Topuria is the guy to come along and just, he is the immovable object, or he is the unstoppable force. And Max Holloway was the immovable object, but he finally got moved. And just for a refresher, Ilia Topuria attacks Volkanovski. Volkanovski ducks everything. And then Ilia posts on Volkanovski's neck, has this position down perfectly. And instead of retreating, Volkanovski makes the mistake of attacking, and he gets clipped for it. You cannot compete with Ilia Topuria in this phone booth style of boxing. He has way too much power, and he is way too fluid in his movements. He has so much technique in terms of measuring his distance perfectly, and he knows that he has the ability to put these people out. And against two of the best featherweights in the world, knockouts within 3 rounds. Boom. Sip some tea afterwards. Ilia Topuria is a problem. I don't know who is going to be able to beat him, and if he moves up to 155 to fight Islam, I'd be worried for Islam. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this breakdown. I might be doing a more in-depth breakdown, and everyone have a great rest of your day.